That's me. You need to start the timer again, too. So, if somebody asked you, would you jump off a bridge? Would you do it? We've all heard our mothers ask us this rhetorical question. Well, I'm the guy that would answer that rhetorical question with a couple more questions. How high is the bridge? Is there a landing area? This thing keeps moving around. Maybe it's because I'm that crazy guy, you know. I like to jump off of bridges and buildings with a parachute. I like to run off hills with a paraglider. I like to jump out of a perfectly good airplane and go skydiving. What I hear a lot these days about extreme sports in general is, you're crazy, or that's nuts, or you're insane. You know, it goes for a lot of sports: skiing, snowboarding, kayaking, surfing, mountain biking, you know, all these extreme sports that we see on TV these days. So, are we all just a bunch of over-caffeinated adrenaline junkies, you know, insane, living life on the edge, no fear, no regard for our own health? Maybe. But I'd argue that the athletes at the highest level of these sports are not just incredibly athletically gifted, but they're masters of being focused and being engaged in what they're doing. Instead of seeing limits, they see evolution, and they're redefining risk management. A lot of what is perceived as crazy these days is really just the evolution of limits. And when we, take skiing for example. Skiing started out in the backwoods, and now skiers are skiing down these crazy steep hills, dropping huge cliffs, and going really fast. You know, surfing. I just read that somebody surfed a 90-foot wave this week. I don't think surfing started there, but through the advancement of skill and technology, that's where these limits are currently being pushed. It's important when we think of limits that we think of something that can evolve, not just a boundary. You know, the word limit itself, I don't know what the definition is, but it sounds like a boundary. But limits are something that evolves. And the way I look at limits, and a dear friend of mine kind of illustrated this for me, it's, if we see a limit in front of us, we'll take a small step towards the limit. And if we reach that limit, we kind of know we're there. But generally what's happening is we'll take another small step towards the limit and get a little bit closer. And we'll keep taking smaller and smaller steps as we get towards the limit. But we're never really reaching that limit. And every time we take one of those smaller steps, we see, oh yeah, the limit's not just right there, but it's just a little bit in front of us. So we can keep pursuing the limits that way. And then sometimes, yeah, maybe we take too big of a step towards the limits. And bad things can happen, but generally, we'll try to say, okay, that was a little bit too big, and we're going to take a step back and reevaluate the situation. And a lot of times, that requires thinking about the problem in a new way, or creating new technology. And then when we have this new technology and this new way of thinking, we'll come back to the limits, and we'll take those small steps again and see how close we can get to the limits. And it's a really important process, and it's a process that you have to be engaged in and really not let it just kind of go by the wayside. Can you all hear me? Seems like this thing keeps moving around on me. So even though we're never actually pursuing the limits and maybe never pursuing these goals that we have, we're going to keep chasing them and keep, trying to find where the limit is and evolving where it is. You know, if we look at what we were doing yesterday, the limits were way back there. And so tomorrow the limits are still going to be in front of us, even though it takes a long time sometimes to evolve this. And it's happening around us all the time. Take, for example, if I leave my dirty socks lying around, my girlfriend probably is going to frown upon it, you know. If I do this for a few days in a row, there's going to be dirty socks everywhere, and she'll probably end up blowing up on me. But if I start leaving my underwear and my dirty socks laying around, all of a sudden, the dirty socks aren't the problem, you know? So through creative thinking, I've managed to evolve my limits. It's important in today's culture of, really quick thinking and MTV and everything that goes by so quick with the short attention spans that we really focus on this and we're really engaged in this process of evolving our limits. I would say that the best athletes at these extreme sports are really, really good at being 100% focused and 100% engaged in what they're doing, in the task at hand. And this is really a skill. It takes practice. For me, it's taken a lot of practice, probably a lot more practice than a lot of people out there. My first year that I was flying paragliders, this was back in 1995 or something like this, I went to a World Cup competition in Italy. And all the best competitors in the world are there, and I'm pretty much out of my league. And on one day, I had a particularly bad result, even bad for my skill level that I was still, I was getting good quick, but I was still a beginner for the most part. I had a bad day, and my mentor at the time asked me why I performed so bad that day. And I told him, I was out there and I couldn't stop thinking about what I did with my wallet. Did I put it in my backpack? Was it in my pocket? Did I lose it? Where was it? Well, this didn't go over so well with him. He absolutely blew up on me and said I had no business being there if I was going to be thinking about my wallet. I was wasting his time as a teacher. I was wasting my time as a pupil. I was wasting my time because there was, the best competitors in the world there to learn from. And I'm in the air thinking of my wallet. Not only that, I was putting myself in dangerous situations. We were flying in the biggest mountains in Italy in strong conditions. There was a lot of wind, there was thunderstorms around, and I just had no business being in the air if I was thinking about where my wallet was. So this was a big wake-up call for me, big eye-opener. And I made it my mission from that moment forward to really concentrate every time I clip into my gear until my feet hit the ground after I land, that I am going to be focused on the task at hand and I'm going to be engaged in what I'm doing. I'm not out there lollygagging, thinking of my wallet that I lose a couple times a day anyhow. It's like, where's my wallet? Where's my keys? I'm not going to be thinking about my bills, my dirty laundry, none of that. It's time to be engaged and focused in what I'm doing. And that's really, it was one of the biggest learning experiences I had. Maybe it was because it was the only time anybody yelled at me when I was learning something. But he was pretty upset with that, and rightfully so. And from that, my learning curve is really never stopped. Every time I'm out in the air, whether it's floating above these clouds or whatever I'm doing, I'm 100%. I'm trying to be 100% focused and engaged, and I'm able to slowly learn every time I'm out there. And, it goes for anything that I'm doing, really. I need to be engaged and focused in what I'm doing. And then I'm able to apply all of that knowledge that is hopefully stored in this little brain sometimes, and at the exact right time. So I can make good decisions when I need to. And it really helps. I am the first to admit that sometimes I can't focus, and I can always see that my performance suffers or that I put myself in dangerous situations. So it's really important, and it's just one of those things that I really have to concentrate to do, but it's such an important skill that I do think about focusing and concentrating, and it sounds kind of funny, but it's how it works. In my line of work, I deal with risk management a lot, pretty much on a daily basis. And a lot of times I think of risk management as some corporate suit who's just being a fun cop, telling me that what I want to do is too dangerous. But the fact is, we're all dealing with risks every day, and we have some kind of risk management in our own lives. A lot of times we don't really think about the risks that we're taking. A lot of us probably drove here today. That's a risk. There was probably some of us that were even texting and driving or talking on the phone. That just compounds those risks. And really what we've done is we've conditioned ourselves to engage in risky behavior without really thinking about it, We just kind of passively go along and taking risks. What these athletes in these extreme sports at the highest levels are doing is really being engaged in this risk management process and really thinking about the risks in front of them and being a part of deciding, is this dangerous, is this not? And so what it does is it minimizes the eventual risks that we face. We know that there's risks, but we also know how to face them and what the circumstances are going to be, and we put the odds in our favor. Risk management is a lot about knowing your limits, knowing the limits of your gear, your abilities, your mind. It's about knowing what the reward is. It's, is it worth doing this? And then taking an appropriate action to make sure that you can have the outcome that you want. A lot of this is having a lot of experience. And the awesome thing that's going on these days is that there's so much information out there, and there's so many ways and communication channels to share experiences and share information. So it's a really big responsibility for everybody to learn as much as you can about what you're doing. And what this does is it really supplements the training and all of the time that we're out there enjoying ourselves doing these sports. It supplements that, and we've got all this knowledge that we can use when we need to, if conditions change or new situations present themselves. We've already got that knowledge, and we can deal with decisions really quickly. A big thing about risk management is being objective and objectively identifying the risks and never taking uncalculated risks. If we take uncalculated risks, that's going to kind of bring luck into the equation, and we really don't want to do that. What we want to do is maximize our skill and our experience and minimize any kind of luck that comes into the equation. And don't let emotions cloud your judgment is another big one. So, sometimes I might be standing at the edge of a cliff, and I have to jump off it, and I'll be feeling a little bit of nervous anticipation. I might even feel a little bit scared. But, those are really just healthy reactions that help keep us safe. And it's not that I deny that I have emotions. I'm just, not letting them cloud the actual judgment in this risk management process. Right now, my girlfriend and I are buying a house together, and we've been looking at a lot of different properties. And at one point, she got a little frustrated with me because I wasn't showing much emotion in this process. And basically what I was doing was I was kind of using the same risk analysis process that I do in my sporting life, and I was using that to select a house. What I did is I made a spreadsheet with all the houses, and I assigned different parameters like price, location, whether the property had enough acres for me to use it as a takeoff with my paraglider. And then I assigned a value to each one of these parameters and summed them all up, and the houses with the highest values were the ones that we needed to look at first. So now I've shown a lot of interest because the one we're looking at the most is the one with the best takeoff, so I'm pretty excited. Sometimes the actual risk is greater than the perceived risk, and that's really when our training comes into play. And we don't operate at 100% all the time. That's just inviting catastrophe. No, what we're doing is we're operating at 75% of our potential, and that leaves a good buffer zone for conditions to change or things to change, whatever it is. And it's still fun, it's still exhilarating, it's still great to watch if, we're performing in front of a crowd or something, but we've, minimized our risk and nearly guaranteed the chance for a good outcome. life is fragile. Sometimes the risk management process breaks down. These are really high stakes tables that we play at. And unfortunately, I have lost a few friends, and they're not here anymore. They're not here to share these incredible experiences. But that's just it. These experiences are so incredible that we're willing to take these risks, and we're willing to assume the risks. It might sound selfish, it is, but we're really out there not to be daredevils or anything. We're out there, to improve the quality of our life, not to be crazy, not to be famous. We're just out there fulfilling personal goals and pursuing the evolution of sport. And in doing so, we're kind of redefining the risk management process. And risk management isn't a document. It's not a set of rules. It is just that. It's a process. And we all have to be engaged in it. Risks must never be taken casually. They always have to be calculated. And through this, we basically become the insurance underwriters, insuring our own success. And through training and repetition, we're enhancing our good decision making. And the creativity of the thought process is evolving our limits. So, this thought process not only creates success in sport, but in life as well, in everyday life. It's helped me in the house buying process. Maybe not my girlfriend so much, but it definitely helped me. So it's everybody's responsibility to embrace this and be a part of this process. And that's when good happens and your life will be better. So now back to the good part. I'll show you some more slides of some of my adventures. Jumping into the abyss there. This is my team. There's a group of guys, and we do a bunch of paragliding and skydiving, and here's base jumping. Jumping off a building in San Diego. This is all legal, by the way. We don't really do anything illegal, if you're wondering that. Yep, now we get permission from the landowners and everybody to do all this, so. Paragliding in Aspen over the Italian Dolomites, I was talking about. Little tricky landing there. It's always fun to fly with your buddies. It's always fun to get upside down. It's fun to fly over San Francisco. This is at an air show in Las Vegas with an aerobatic pilot taking off between me and my buddy. There you go. Leave you with that. Thanks, you guys.